Welcome to The Girl Herd,
where we talk Texas football.
And a bunch of takes you've probably already heard.
But not from us.
Hey Herdies, today is one of those pinch me moments for us because we are joined by Longhorn legend, Hall of Fame coach, and the man who helped define what Texas football has become today, Coach Mack Brown. Coach, we are so excited to have you and have loved kind of following along with your journey. So start us off. Tell us how retired life has been.
Thank you, ladies. Now, don't call it retired. I call it rewired.
I like
Because tired sounds old. It sounds like you're not doing anything. You're laying in bed all day, and I'm up, I'm working, I'm speaking, I'm consulting, I'm doing podcast. So we can't use the word retired.
Rewired. We like that.
Yes, I'm trying to get rid of that word in general, but I'm having a blast. You know, it's interesting. I never wash clothes, so I'm washing my own clothes now, and Sally's happy for that. I never made the bed because I was up and gone before Sally got up, so I help her make the bed. I actually wash dishes, and I wasn't home before. I've gone to the grocery store, which she laughs at me. I always walk by something and say, "Oh, that looks good," and she said, "We don't need it." So I've been on the internet buying things, and she's kind of watching me there because she doesn't trust me. So it's funny. I said the other day, living in Austin's a lot different when you're not the head football coach at Texas. It's a lot of fun, but as the football coach, you never go out.
No.
And you just don't have time. So as much as you love coaching, and that's what you are, and what you've done for years, and you miss the staff, the players, the organization, the recruiting, the practices, the games, and the strategy. You also spend more time with your family and your friends, and there's a healthy spot outside of that when you've had enough.
Yeah, it's so funny. I'm not shocked by anything you said. I knew we were going to ask you about retirement life, and I was like, I feel like Coach he's not about that, and you're not. But you brought up the podcast, and that was something else we were so curious about. We saw that you started the Stampede with Vince Young last year, and me and my mom have been saying, like, you look like you have the most fun life, and you pretty much just detailed that to us. So what went into you wanting to start the podcast with VY, and how's it going?
You know, ladies, when you get through with a chapter in your life, when I got through at Texas, I went to TV. So, and I did too much. I wanted to do a game on Thursday or Friday night. I wanted to do all day studio and then Sports Center on Sunday morning. So I was leaving the house on Wednesday. I was getting back Sunday night and had absolutely no time at home again. So I was working really hard, and that's what my life's been. So I expected that of me, and Sally kind of understood that. This time we said, let's kind of figure out what we want. So TV wasn't available for what we wanted at the time. And I'm speaking a lot, but I'm getting to pick what I want to speak, and I'm doing some commercials, and that's been fun. But we started looking at podcasts. I started talking about doing a national one with Rick Neuheisel, and that didn't work out. And then Sinclair called, and they're interesting. They've got a podcast with Matt Leinart for USC. Mm-hmm. They've got a podcast with Cardell Jones, another player at Ohio State. They've got the Golics at Notre Dame. They've got A.J. McCarron at Alabama, and they wanted one in Texas. So they called me, and I called Vince, and I said, this might be fun. So let's look at it. And Bob Blue's done a tremendous job as our host, and so we've had fun. And we do it once a week. We're going to start in the off season. We'll start answering questions from fans, which I think will be fun. But we tape it on Tuesday morning, and then it runs usually starting Wednesday morning at 9, and we just have fun.
And how do you say no to you when you ask somebody to do something? How does one say no?
Well, it's pretty hard for me to say no and somebody else not say no. So that's what you do. You work it out. But I like it. I've done with Drake May being our quarterback at North Carolina, and him being the second youngest player to ever quarterback in a Super Bowl that's coming up next week. I've been doing so many interviews about Drake, and it's fun. It's fun to talk about him. And and I don't want to be that guy that curls up in a corner and dies after he leaves coaching. So I want to have fun, and I want to help other people, and that's important too.
And that'll never happen. We can't, you will never curl up and die in a corner. And, you know, like us, like obviously we were affiliated with UT and coming out and still having this passion. We did something similar where we did podcasting and still trying to stay in touch. So I'm sure that's how you feel too, right? Like it still kind of keeps you in touch with the programs and football and like something that you love.
Well, and it does. And if you think about it, Michelle, it's one of those deals where when I was looking at the future, the next chapter, and I thought, you know what? I've had 50 years of experience in that locker room and 50 years of experience on that sideline, 36 years as a head coach. So I think it would be fun for me to share things that have happened to me and ideas and why we did things and with the fans. And you're never able to do that as a coach. There's always coach speak. You're always very careful. You got to protect your coaches. You got to protect your players. You got to protect your high school coaches for recruiting. So after a win, after a loss, you're so guarded. And it's so difficult to just be you and say what you really think at the time. In fact, John Bianco, sports information director, would say sometime right after a loss, he'd say, are you ready to go talk to him? And I'd say, I don't want to talk to anybody. Yeah. And he'd say, well, why don't we sit over in the corner for a second? Let's get a Diet Coke and let's relax and let's kind of settle down before we go talk to what you think are those idiots out there that you're mad at right now. So, but it's just been fun. It's when something is messed up at Texas and Sark defends it, I can say I did that. Yeah. And I did the same thing. Here's what I said afterwards. I'm not sure I said it right at that time. If I had to do over, I'd say it differently. But I do think I can, the people talking about whether Sark should call plays or not, I did that. I call plays. Then at some point I quit calling plays. So there's just some things that I've got in my memory bank that I love to share with people and help them understand the game better. And very honestly right now, with all the craziness that's going on in college sports in general, but especially college football, I like to talk about my thoughts on things that need to be fixed.
Yeah, I think that's something that we've talked about quite a bit on our show is the new landscape of college football and the transfer portal and NIL. So what are some of your thoughts, if you're willing to share with us, on how you make improvements to that process?
Yeah, Angie, is this show a 6-month show, or it might take that long to get through some thoughts here?
We can have our own show on this topic.
Yes, when it first started, the administration at North Carolina came in, sat down and talked to me and the team and said, you know, this thing called NIL is not for pay for play, but they're going to start paying players. And they said that, then we're not going to be amateurs. We're not going to have amateurism anymore. We're going to be professional players. No, they're not going to pay you that way. And I thought they really are. And then Sam Howell was our quarterback that went to the pros, and he stood up and said, you know, I don't like it, Coach, because it seems to me with this process, the quarterback's going to make more money than everybody else, and that's not going to be good in the locker room, which is exactly what's happened. And then the transfer portal, we had a young man named Tez Walker that they would not let have eligibility. He went to North Carolina Central, didn't play because of COVID, transferred to Kent State. Then he came back to us. His grandmother was sick. She lived in Charlotte. He wanted to play, and if you can transfer after playing one time, and we thought he played one time. He didn't play at North Carolina Central. And they wouldn't make him eligible, so they made him ineligible for 3 times. So we fought it. The Attorney General of North Carolina finally got involved, and the NCAA gave in and let him transfer. And now he's a receiver for the Baltimore Ravens, which, thank goodness for him, it worked to make his life better. And now they're allowing to transfer everywhere. So there are no guidelines at all. The tampering is absolutely horrible. We heard Dabo Swinney talk about Ole Miss the other day. It's everywhere. It happened with me when I was at North Carolina. I don't know that there are any rules. We're going to see here if nothing happens and they have caught someone tampering, or if they suspend them a game or hit them up for a few dollars, that's not going to matter. You got a great player. So it's not going to make any difference because people are just so into winning right now. But the transfer portal and NIL collided because they came along at the wrong time. And I worry, ladies, that we've got, 36 years as a head coach. So many of our players are best friends.
Right. Yeah.
And they've been like you all. After school, they've got a community that embraces them. They know alumni that can help them get jobs. They're going to come back to the state where they played, and that's going to be their NIL. Yeah. And then Vince Young laughs. He said, if we'd had NIL, I'd still be playing. And I think he's right.
I don't think it's
never left.
He still would be playing, and he'd be making more money than I did. But I do think that right now we're seeing young guys transfer 3, 4, 5 times. If you transfer once, you've got a 63% chance to graduate because a lot of your courses do not transfer in. These guys are transferring 2, 3, 4 times. The young man at Clemson was enrolled in school, working out with a team, being in team meetings, and he transfers after he started school this semester. So we've got to put a stop to some of this, and we've got to make some sense. And basically, unless you punish those, unless you make a rule that's enforceable, and you punish it to a point that it's going to be a lot worse than you getting the player, then people are still going to break rules. So that's one place to start. The next place is if ladies, we never paid anybody any money. The universities made the money. The conferences made the money in football, especially. And what happened is the players were getting $15 a month for laundry money. And they finally got tired of that. And it's a dangerous sport, and we weren't helping their parents. If we had just said, let's give them $100,000 to graduate and get them going after they get through with school, we wouldn't be where we are today. Let's give them another $100,000 if they go to graduate school and graduate. But we did nothing. So we waited too long, and then it is the toothpaste out of the tube theory. We just gave them everything. And now the players have too much, and they've been given too much, and it's hard to stop. There's not a coach out there, and I think most fans that understand it want the players to be getting paid something. And whether it's the employee model or whether it's collective bargaining or antitrust like the NFL, we are headed toward an NFL model. So to me, they've been doing this for a long time, and their model's working. We all should really look at that one because we don't have a model.
So many great points. I think one thing that stuck out for me is you mentioned the premium on winning right now is more than it's ever been, and just the pressure that's on these head coaches to manage everything you just talked about. So we just saw a crazy year in college football with coaches being fired left and right. I think about James Franklin, who took his team to a Final Four finish just a year ago, and they got rid of him. So do you think the expectations are out of control, Coach? And what do you think's behind all that?
Yes, Devin, it's a great point. And I'm a very good friend of James Franklin's, and he's in overtime with Oregon. And if he beats Oregon, he may make it to the playoffs. And then they got disappointed, and they came west and lost to UCLA, then lost to Northwestern. They fire him. They just fire him. I mean, 4th, 5th game of the season. They don't realize when you fire somebody that early, these kids can still redshirt and not play. And there are so many kids that left Penn State. We had a player there from North Carolina that went to Tennessee. So people are going to start slowing down a little bit, but they're all so worried about who's going to get the next coach and then the pressure of the hire. You better worry about who you're going to hire, and you better be better than who you fired, because it's going to cost you a lot of money to make that decision as you go through. And then Penn State was one of the ones that had the most transfers, because when James Franklin goes to Virginia Tech, a lot of them are going to go with him. And then Matt Campbell comes into Penn State from Iowa State. I think he took 24 Iowa State players with him. So you're not only hiring a coach now, you're hiring a team. You're hiring players with you. And what happens is you talk about loyalty, Devin. If you're going to be fired after 2 years, there's no loyalty with the school to you anymore. So we talk about a coach leaving. He just left us. Well, if I stay, I'm going to get fired. So what are we doing here? It's and they're making $8 to $12 million. And I was on a Nike trip earlier this year out in Hawaii with 30 Nike coaches, all making that kind of money, and everyone was miserable. They're all miserable. And it's such a sad note to see that players aren't as happy as they were. Most of the players aren't getting the money that we see every day. Some starters are, but that's half your team. We're seeing players get cut now. There's a rule, and it's a little bit confusing for our listeners, but you used to be able to sign 25 initial scholarships every year. So you could sign 25 high school guys, or you could take 15 high school guys and another 10 transfers, but you could only sign 25. And that protected the players that were on your team, because if you lost them more than 25, you couldn't replace them. And now we're seeing that, so they took that rule out and said, you can get rid of anybody you want, basically, and you can bring anybody you want. So people are bringing in 72 guys. Well, what happens to those that are gone? A lot of them go in the portal, and they don't even have a place to go. And maybe they go down to an FCS school. And then that FCS school that was going to take that high school recruit, now he doesn't take him, or maybe they'll go down to group of 5, and then the FCS guy takes the high school guy, and he was going to go to a group of 5 school instead. So it's really, really concerning for high school recruiting. It's concerning for, they say that you don't run players off, but if I say, Angie, come in, listen, we're going to cut your money. We're going to cut it in half. You're not going to get near as many snaps as you did. We're not running you off now, but you might want to go somewhere else. You're going to leave. He just told you, I'm not going to pay you, and you're not going to play.
Right.
And these kids have pride. And they all have agents now. So they're saying, okay, we'll leave. Well, then you get in the portal and you can't find a place to go. Because all the agents are telling the kids and the families, you get in that portal, man, everybody's going to want you. Well, now what's happening, and that's what's happening because of tampering, the agents and the kids are finding out where they're going to go and how much money they're going to make before they get in the portal. And that's tampering at the highest level.
Yeah, I think that we've always kind of seen or talked about, right, even when we were in school, and agents and how they could impact these players. And now they're doing it even more earlier on. And we talked about these kids being rich financially. But what I think we all remember with you is a culture that you created on your team, that these players become your family and that they're going to be rich of leadership. And you've been known for saying, like, don't let this title or this win be the most important thing that you've done with your life. So what is that now? Like, what does that look like in translating and to continuing to make these players into the best people that they can be? And like, how do you continue to do that now that things have changed so much?
Angie, I'm really worried about it. I'm worried about the players. If you start looking at the number of NFL players that make a lot of money and they're bankrupt and they're divorced when they get out, it's an unbelievable number, and it's scary that somebody didn't help them, or they didn't listen, or they weren't ready for that much money. So we're going to see the same thing with these young guys. We're going to see young guys that make more money coming in than they do when they're going to be able to make it when they get out. They're not going to have degrees. They're going to be depressed. They don't have a support system because they went to 4 schools and they were never there long enough to meet any of the great people at these schools that will help them when they get through. And then we're going to see mental health issues. And that's what I'm concerned about. I'm concerned about these kids being homeless, being bankrupt, and depressed because they can't play anymore. They don't have a job. They don't have any way to make money, and the jobs that they could get aren't going to be enough money after they were given money for playing football to keep them happy. And that's what I'm concerned about. We have a thing called APR now instead of graduation rates. When we had graduation rates, it was really easy to say, this is how many you graduated. You brought in this many, these graduated, these did not. It was very clear. And now with APR is just a retention rate of how many guys are on track to graduate. So if you're on track to graduate, you can transfer. But nobody ends up following anymore. Did they graduate? Did they finish? And obviously being eligible and not finishing school doesn't help them except to keep playing.
Makes sense.
And you're speaking like everything to us. We've talked a lot about this. I mean, yes, our era, of course, was completely different, but you still had these guys who came out and made a lot of money and who was helping them with this, like everything that you just said. And now we've just started this even earlier. And yeah,
Michelle, for instance, within the last 2 months, we've had a player, one of our players from Texas that I will not mention, that had a stroke. And all of his teammates came in and wanted to help. We've got a player that has lung cancer from North Carolina. All of his teammates, they're calling me saying, "Coach, we got to help. What do we do?" There's a player that just had a stroke with our Tulane team. There's a texting group of 20, 30 guys that were on that team, and that was in the 70s. They were on that team, and they're all wanting to help. Well, let's get a GoFundMe. Can we come and see him? What can we do? What does he need? Does he need food? And we're going to lose that. That's something that's not going to happen in the future, and I really, really hate that. It's just something that we'll really miss. I spoke to the kickoff luncheon for the Independence Bowl in Shreveport today, or this year, to start the season, and they surprised me. They brought in about 30, 40 of the guys from my Tulane team that played in that bowl game.
Wow.
And that was so fun, and they loved each other. And we're all, how guys tell lies. You said this, Coach. I said, I didn't say that. But if you think it's funny, that's all right. That's what you remember. That's what you heard, not what I said. But it's so much fun, and we're going to miss that. We're not going to have that going in the future. And to me, it's more important for NIL for a Texas graduate, Texas player to stay at the university and graduate from Texas and then reap the benefits of all the people he met and the experiences he had when he gets out, like you all, than it is to come in, get mad, and go somewhere else, and then go somewhere else, and then go somewhere else. Then he wants to come back to Austin, and they say, "You quit." We got to help the guys that stayed. And then it gets confusing in coaching. If I had a guy leave me, let's say, at North Carolina, and then nobody will help him, and then he calls me back, and I've got to help all the guys that stayed.
Yeah.
And you want to help him, but it's harder. It puts you in a more difficult position.
What was it like whenever you were at Texas in terms of the Angie conversation you mentioned earlier? Obviously, that would be opposite because the players couldn't transfer like that as much. There wasn't the portal and all these things, but you signed with Texas, you're a young player, you're coming behind people and you're working with such a deep team and you're trying to make the two deep every year. What did that look like? Because I think what you're talking about is these kids are missing out on the chance to really develop and then also learn about life. You're not always going to get what you want, and you're going to have to arrive when you arrive, and that may take longer than you want it to.
Devin, that's so true. All of it's so true. And one of the hardest things is we had 120 players at that time, and only 11 could play at a time. So there are a lot of guys disappointed, a lot of guys sitting on the bench, a lot of depression, a lot of mental health issues, and constantly as a coach, you were counseling and talking to them because mom wanted him to play, dad wanted him to play, high school coach wanted him to play, and we had a lot of really great players. Yep. Vince Young and Colt McCoy redshirted to show you how good we were. Yeah. And so what we did is we, number one, we tried to get ahead of people, and when you're winning enough, you can play everybody. So that works. Even the walk-ons. I had a rule with our coaches. I wanted the walk-ons, every one of them, to get in a game, even if it's just one, so they could tell their families I played at Texas. I just wasn't on the team. I was in a game. And then have to get into how many and what my stats were. But I was in a game. And they loved saying, yeah, I played at Texas. And it would be covering a kickoff, and we'd be way ahead. And we actually had a card that I would keep in the back of my pocket. And when we got so far ahead, I would say, okay, put the white team in. All right, let the orange team cover kickoffs. We're at a position where we're going to do that. And they'd scramble and say, come here, get in. He said, I'm going in? Yeah, get in the game now. Go tackle somebody. But you're one of the hardest things in the world is to try to pick up a guy who you brought in Devin, that is talented, and he's doing everything right, but he's not as good as the two guys in front of him.
Yep.
So what I've always done is said, Devin, here's the film. The guy in the sky don't lie, man. You're not as good as these two. Here are the things you're doing well. Here are the two things that you need to do better to play. And I would always say, you're all equal off the field. We're going to treat all of you good. You're all going to get the process, the leadership, the learning, the maturing. You're going to be more prepared for life when you get out of here than if you weren't playing. Ones that play the practice best on the field are going to be the ones that play. And that's I always said, and the guys they laugh at me, facts. Those are facts. And they'd say, well, Coach, why aren't I playing? I said, facts, here they are. You don't block as well. And I would usually try to get the parents either in the room at that time or on a Zoom in the last 4 or 5 years and say, all right, parents, here we go. I'm going to tell you the truth because that's my responsibility. That's who I am. And it's a 40-year decision, not a 4. And if you want to stay, again, I want you to stay, but I don't want you to stay mad.
Right.
And if you're not able to do what you'd like to do, let's find something you can do. Because everybody can do something to help this team.
Yep.
So let's find out what it is. So in a strange way, Devin, that was really a challenge, but it was fun to figure out what each guy could do. And there was a key to each kid and a different key that turned on different kids at different times. But I always said, don't stay miserable.
Yep.
If you're going to stay here, let's learn. And the other thing that Devin, you mentioned earlier is, and maybe Angie mentioned it too, is you got to learn to fight through things. Right now, we're just quitting.
Yes.
And I would tell them that. I would say it's going to be, you'll probably play in 2 years. But you got Brian Arakpo ahead of you. You've got Tim Crowder ahead of you. You're not going to play, and Brian Robinson, you're not going to play ahead of those guys unless they get hurt. But if you'll stay and prepare, we'll play you some, but you're not going to be in a starting role. But you can work yourself into a position where you're Brian Arakpo, you're Brian Robinson, you're Tim Crowder, and then this younger guy's going to have to wait behind you. There's no patience anymore. There's no patience with coaches. There's no patience with assistant coaches. They're leaving even after they come.
Yep.
Stay 2 weeks and leave. And there's just there's no loyalty, and that really concerns me.
Which has always been my favorite part about college football is the loyalty and the relationships and what you build. I mean, you look at Colt and Shipley and how close they got. And now, of course, we had some changes this year that happened at the quarterback and wide receiver, level, that roommates and changes. And you're just, all of those things that aren't happening today.
Yeah, and Michelle, Jordan Shipley is a great example. He gets caught in a horrific fire on his ranch. And there's parts of his body that are burned. We don't know, like you all don't know, early reports. We don't know if he's going to live or not.
Right.
And I mean, there was such an uprising of ex-players around him that I even had to help the family post something and answer things because they were so overwhelmed they couldn't answer. There were just so many people. Coach, what can we do? Again, can we go see him? Can we send him something? Do we text? Do we post? What do we do? How can we help our teammate? And that's just another great example. And by the way, for the listeners, Jordan's doing much better. He's still got a tough road ahead, but he is trending in a positive direction for sure.
That's great. That story. Thank you for the update on him. I'm sure people love to hear it, but gives me chills to hear about, which makes me think about you and your time. Like, what moment within your career and your tenure at Texas still gives you chills to this day, and a story maybe that other fans wouldn't think is likely for you to tell?